a seat. I know we could ask parents to bring their kids in, but I've been to Carrollton at Westside and drop off and pick up. I know what that looks like. So, and it's already crowded, and those are not the majority of parents picking up. That's just a small fraction. So I don't know, do we have a plan? Are we working on a plan for that, or?
We do have a committee for that, and I'll tell you, as I talk to my colleagues around the state, that is a major concern everywhere. Different divisions who have already rolled out their plan of what they're going to do, what they've stated and what I've read in the newspaper, or if I've talked to them directly, is they still don't have a plan for transportation. And with the requirements of a child every other seat, I don't know how we could possibly do that. So that may be as that committee plans. And again, we get some commitments from parents that they'll drive their child. That still may not be the answer, like you said. We may have to come back to you and say, look, we're going to have to put a kid in every seat. We may, at some stops, depending on the situation, we may have to put 2 kids in a seat and then recommend that they wear a mask. And that may drive a parent's decision, well, I don't want them to come then. So transportation is a major player in this. And I don't think anyone has that magic answer yet. And I will say, and I'm sorry, I'm just transparent, and if I throw someone under a bus, but we talked to a health official from Virginia that works at VDH that when we were asking bus questions said, I don't know, I haven't been on a bus in 20-some years. Well, that's not a very good answer, and that's not very helpful. So we are being, and I will tell you, the state keeps saying it's a local board's decision. We put these guidance in place. We recommend you follow CDC, but if you follow everything on CDC, the 6 feet and everything they say, we can't function. We could probably function at 25%. So it's not a reality, and it's an easy thing to do when they get a phone call to say it's a local board decision. So I did go further and ask the Virginia Department of Education with the variance. If we apply for a variance, is there an approval or denial? And the answer that I received back is if you apply for a variance with your mitigation strategies, you can open. They're not going to approve or deny it. If we apply for a variance, we can bring all kids back. But with that said, we have to look at our at-risk management, what our attorney says, and all those other items. So it's really putting the onus back on us to fix all these problems. So it's not fair, but that's where we're at. And we're going to have to make the decisions that are best for Isle of Wight County. And right now, we're in a good position as far as health. But we have been staying at home too. So I think seeing what happens in phase 3 will really inform us.
So my next question, does special education or kids with special needs get a priority for coming back if they want to come back? Like, are they going to be maybe more than just AB, or depending on their need levels and IEPs?
We are going to look at that because that did come out in the phases, and phase 1 addressed special education students. And so, yes, that's one of the committees is working on that and how we would address those needs.
My next one is the lunches. We're doing the drop lunches now, even for the summer. How would the lunches work if we're in school and half the kids are getting lunches and they're out of school? So would we still be doing lunch stops? And how would we do that if we're having transportation issues with the buses?
Right. Again, one of the committees is working on that. Good luck to that committee. No, but some of that will be determined too by the USDA. Are they going to still allow us to get reimbursed if we send meals home on those off days? Those are all questions that we'll have to ask and that committee will have to look at. Those are very good questions.
And then one of the last ones I have is with the survey, you were saying, you'd have double, but I mean, if I take the survey, I have 3 kids. So I would be in for 3. Most people have more than one. Some only have 1, some have 5. So, I mean, that wasn't a question I don't remember that being a question on the survey. How many children do you have?
Right.
So, I mean, I feel like that was a really good picture of what I mean, I'm sure there are parents who did not take it, but for the most part, you know, most people do have more than one child. So
Right.
if you have, you know, 70%, that actually may be 70% of our population, roughly, that are willing to come back.
Right.
I mean, I just want to take that into consideration when we're looking at the results, that it's not one parent, one child. It's sometimes one parent, 3 kids, one parent, 2 kids, one parent, 6 kids. I mean, I don't have 6, but some people do. So that's just a piece. So when I heard you talking like it was one parent, one child, I just didn't want that to be
Right,
the
right.
representation going out.
Yeah, I was speaking more statistically with a survey like that. We call elections with far less data.
Yeah,
So
there
it's
we go.
pretty clear that if you extrapolate that out, it's probably going to be 70%, like you said.
So I mean, either way, we are going to be going forward with a virtual learning plan.
Absolutely.
No matter whether we're in full-time or not, we are going to be having a virtual plan this fall, is what we're definitely saying. Now, we're just not sure of the in-person plan, is what the variable is.
Yes, yes. We are going to have, we do not want to lose any of our students. And if they don't feel safe coming to school, we understand that, and we want to offer them a good virtual option.
I completely agree with that, so yes.
Madam Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, Dr. Thornton, the subcommittees that you have formed, are these going to be ad hoc committees, or are they going to be committees that are going to continue?
So they're going to be formed and give us their recommendations, and then the executive team is going to look at those recommendations and may follow up with them. And then, yeah, we probably will not disband those committees because, again, not knowing what's going to happen, we may need to call them back to the table.
Okay, all right. The next question then, I wanted you to answer that one. You have 5 school board members with an education as their background. I don't know if we could volunteer for one of your subcommittees. I would not have a problem doing that, especially with the timeline and everything that we have. And as a school board member, I think that would get us more involved with the planning process. If we could, you know, you have 5 members, I don't know how many committees you have, but spread us out. You have such as Mr. Wilson, his expertise as a school administrator and transportation. He could work well in that area. You have Jackie that, you know, she did, Jackie, you were more elementary? Yeah. And she could work in that direction. You know, I'm sped. You have Julia that could work, especially with the athletic department and all of those other things. You know, that's why I said maybe you could utilize your board members in some fashion and working on those committees with the staff.
All right, we could send out those committees and the days and times that they meet, and if you would like to attend a specific one, like you said, a specific one of interest, we can do that.
Okay. I mean, we do have some things to offer sometime, you know, take it or leave it.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Tynes. Mr. Wilson?
Yes, the question that I have, Madam
Yes,
Chair,
go ahead.
as I labor with this thing every day, I'm sure all of us do. I
Keep
ask a
talking the
question-
mic. Make sure you talk in the mic.
Better? Yeah. I labor with the actual reality. If schools would open tomorrow, would we be ready? And if the answer is yes, fine, let's go for it. But you all know better than that just as well as I do. We're not ready for school opening tomorrow. We have to, our perception as to what's going to be going on, not just going through the act, but actually that what's really going on is, we want some quality out of all of these, things we putting on paper. And my question, to myself, sometimes I say, well, if it's not ready to open tomorrow, when? If it's not ready to open tomorrow, why? Well, why aren't we working on those things that's open tomorrow? Because we're doing the best we can. And actually, we have to have some type of concern as to the safety of all of these children and staff. That's a real concern. Nobody wants to, I can be in, let's say, Walmart and holler, people actually don't holler, want you to pass them on the same aisle. It's a lot of things that we as a board will probably take the blame for, and a lot of things we take the credit for. But one of the things, we are educators, hopefully, and we hope that we are making these decisions that's going to be for the advantage of our children and also for the well-being of the entire county, state as well, everybody. I'm concerned with everybody's child. And that's my concern. Why can't we open tomorrow? We're not ready. What do we need to do to get ready? I don't know. But I think meetings such as this where we sit around the table and try to pick each other's brain is good. But the main thing is when school opens back up, and right after Labor Day, if that hasn't changed, what are we going to do differently to get our kids and our staff and the community ready? That's my concern. I don't expect anyone to answer because I don't have the answer. Not that I have all the answers. But those questions got to be answered.
Ms. Perkins, you have anything to add at this time?
The only thing that I would like to add, and I know we're doing this, but I think we all need to remain cognizant of the fact that we have a number of low-income families, and those are the families that need the greatest amount of support from us in making sure that their kids have the resources that they need and can get to school and or whatever the appropriate learning environment is for them.
None of us are taking this lightly. This is huge. And nothing that we decide to do is going to please everybody. And our hearts is truly to do what's best for our students and our staff and the community. And there were like 54 pages of comments. And as I was reading, I didn't get through all of them, and I intend to, but when I was reading the comments, you read one parent who's very passionate about their child's emotional health, the stress that their children do not learn well in front of a computer. They need a breathing teacher. And they were so passionate about how much their children have already lost based on where we have been. And they're looking at, we've already lost this much. Now, what does the future hold? So you could feel that passion. Then you would read another comment, and you read where the parents are so passionate about, I'm not ready to send my child back. And then, and that was kind of how everything went. So many varying opinions. And then I look at the choices that are on the table that you've presented, and I can't even imagine the planning and the work when you say we're planning for all of these options. I know the amount of work that goes on with administration and teachers planning for what you know is going to come. When you know it's 5 days a week and all your kids are coming, and all the planning and the training that's taking place. And now we're looking at planning for full virtual learning. No matter what we do, that's going to be an option. And that's good, because parents who aren't comfortable, they've got an option that they can be comfortable with. And I know I was listening to videos. I have read and listened to so many videos trying to educate myself for the responsibility that we all have. And it's a huge responsibility that, again, none of us take lightly. But, I mean, I was looking at, I don't even know what I was getting ready to say. Because I too, and so, I know what I was going to say. The virtual Virginia, and how we are now with virtual Virginia going to be K through 12, and how it's another option that is free for teachers and for students. And as you say, we are going to be using that as well, right?
Correct.
You also say we're working with Region 2. Can you again explain the difference? Because I'm not fully understanding that for the virtual learning option that parents will have.
Okay. So, Mike, do you want to cover that?
Sure, definitely. So part of the, as you said, Ms. Carr, this comprehensive plan that's everything from students returning full-time 5 days a week through 100% virtual and everything in between, we are planning for. And a big part of that, of course, is the virtual learning piece. So we've been working very closely with Virtual Virginia. In addition, we have, as you know, been going through the process of having all of our teachers Google certified, because in addition to Virtual Virginia and the Canvas learning management system connected to Virtual Virginia, we have the Google Suite and we have Google Classroom, which is a powerful tool for virtual learning as well. And so, Dr. Kale, do you want to kind of update the board on where we are with Virtual Virginia and some of the specifics around that whole virtual piece and what that might look like?
Mm-hmm. So we are currently, as Mr. Lombardo just said, we are already working with Virtual Virginia. In fact, I think we got an email last night, had some techies in it, that's more Eric stuff, but we are at the process where we're going to begin integrating our system with theirs. They are giving us Canvas LMS, the learning management system, that also works with Google Drive. So the Google certification kind of lays the foundation for our teachers for understanding and being able to utilize those tools fully to their advantage. Within Canvas, they'll have full access to all of the Virtual Virginia content. They'll also have access to Go Open VA, eMedia Virginia, and what they call the Canvas Commons. And so in Canvas, teachers will be able to create courses. They'll be able to pull things from Virtual Virginia. They can pull it from eMedia. They can pull it from Go Open VA. They can pull their own work from Google Drive that they are currently working on. You know, teachers spend all summer making great lessons and things for their students. So they'll be able to utilize all of those pieces within Canvas. And because they've given us the license to Canvas, we also retain the rights to that information. So at the end of all of this, we still keep that piece. We have a committee that works on professional development, and part of our plans are looking at how do we train teachers on how to utilize fully the Virtual Virginia resources, how to use that for blended learning if we are in an A-B model, how to go from blended learning, we're not doing any face-to-face because they shut us down, to 100% virtual for everyone overnight. Looking at what videos are supposed to look like when you post them and upload them into your page, or when you assign them for students. So there are lots of different pieces that we are planning around making sure that our teachers have both the resources, the knowledge, and the support to do that. Myself and 3 of the coordinators will be going through the Virtual Virginia intensive training in the month of July, and we'll be planning for, it's a train the trainer kind of concept, so we will be trained as experts, and then we will train our instructional coaches who will assist us with training all of our staff at each level. So we do have a very good virtual plan, and even if we are somewhat face-to-face versus and providing that virtual learning option, we recognize that we have to be able to provide 100% virtual to everyone in the event that we were shut down again. So we're very adamant about making sure that what our teachers can do is high quality, authentic, and effective for students.
So, Dr. Kale, some of our teachers, if they choose to, they could fully use the curriculum provided, correct? And
Absolutely. And
so they don't have to add in any of theirs. So, because I could imagine if I'm a teacher and I'm overwhelmed with technology, that I've got this curriculum that's fully aligned, I can utilize that, and then I can focus on, now how do I make sure that's uploaded to my students and connect to my students? Where other teachers are far more advanced in technology and will want to paste in their lessons that they've done for years. So it really gives our teachers, I think, options. But what's very important for parents to understand is this a fully developed curriculum that's been used for several years and is aligned to all of the standards. So our students will be getting a very good, strong curriculum.
All of the content in Virtual Virginia goes through a 5-year vetting process before it is even added to their repository. And I brought with me one of the instructor guides from Virtual Virginia. I was looking at it this morning. And a lot of it's very step-by-step. It even goes as far as to tell them how to utilize station rotation, so it aligns very well with our instructional framework model. It gives them suggestions on how they can differentiate. It provides options for formative assessment and for summative assessment at the end of each individual module. And they do this for every SOL, for every strand, for every course.
Are you talking about even elementary?
So for elementary, it's not, they're still building out the elementary piece as well, but what they do for elementary is it's smaller chunks. Obviously, a younger student can't engage in quite the same way. So for example, this would be a second grade example, and they go through an intro, and then they have a concept piece, and there's a practice piece, and then there's an assessment piece for each individual piece. So for example, this one's math, and it looks at money, and one module might look at how we write money, and the next module might look at how we count and compare money. So they wouldn't get all of that in one piece, even though it's part of the same SOL strand. So yes, they do that for everything K-12. The K-8 stuff will probably still require our teachers to give some, some conversation with students, some direct instructional pieces, but it does give them a lot of the application and assessment pieces as well.
I have a question. Our trades programs, those are not things you can do virtually. We talk a lot about elementary because they do need that one-on-one. They're learning to read, they're learning to count. These are basic skills that if they don't have that foundation, they can't do anything going forward. But at the high school level, you think, oh yeah, a high schooler can take pretty much any course online, they're fine. But these trade courses, I was actually at Food Lion, and the young man checking me out was in one of our trades programs and was so disappointed that he wasn't able to finish it out because he'd waited. It was his senior year, and he had waited to take this class, and he was excited about it. And I just felt really bad. And I don't know how, if we're on an A-B schedule or if we are doing virtual, how does this impact our trades programs? And if we're not in school at all, let's say something, what can we do for these programs? Because they have to be in-house. They can't, a lot of it, they can't, like a welder, if you're learning to weld, you can't virtually weld. You know what I mean?
So we do have a committee for career and technical education as well. And like I said, as we go down that road, we possibly could do a variance just for those kids in those classes. And so there's still a lot to discover as we go through. And we'll have a lot of those answers from our committees, and then we'll vet those through different professional organizations for you in July. So we may actually recommend, we have our July 9th meeting, we may ask that you hold another meeting before your final meeting in July where you vote and make your decision, because we'll have a lot of information to share with you. You'll have a lot of reading to do, which I'm sure you'll have a lot of questions of how the subcommittees came to these decisions, because and that's one thing, it's hard for the parents, and we understand the public too. They're not hearing the discussion, and they don't know the other specifics of the size of a classroom, and our classrooms are different sizes within the same building. So some of the decisions and why we're making them, they don't have all of that information in front of them. They just have, this is our recommendation. So they do need to understand, I think like Ms. Carr said, there's so many factors that are going into these decisions moving forward. So we probably will require several meetings as we go through this month.
Okay. I want to continue on the elementary for virtual learning, if a parent wants to go in that route. So if I have a child, say in kindergarten or first grade, the early reading stages, are our teachers, let's say we have teachers that are going to be doing virtual learning, will they have our students, and will they be doing the Zoom meetings, or will it be downloaded videos that go with the actual curriculum that's for virtual learning, Virginia, virtual learning?
So I would say yes and to that. So it's both. We have also an instructional technology committee, and they are looking at things like if you live in an area where you don't have internet access, what could we do to ensure those children are still getting what they need? So we're trying to explore every avenue and learning from the challenges that we faced this past spring. So if you are a student who has internet access and you can Zoom into a classroom, then we would certainly encourage our teachers to facilitate that, especially during daily reading lessons, to do one-on-one reading conferences with students, to work with them directly in our materials. And we would work with parents to find a way for them to check out the materials and things that they would need in order to facilitate a full, robust learning process at home. If they don't have that internet access, it may involve the parent coming to a place in the division. Either they could come to a school or they could go to one of our hotspot zones, and they would be able to download that content to the device. And we would provide a device if they needed one. But they would be able to download that content when they go home. They could go through the content. We would have dedicated time for them to speak directly with their teacher and work with their teacher, either on the phone, FaceTime, what have you, and just making that contact as much as is possible between teachers and students. And then each week they would bring the device back to that hotspot. It would automatically upload the content to, say they use Google Drive for that purpose, is really the best one. It would automatically update the students' responses and things like that, and then they would be able to download the next set of work for that week.
So I think one thing that the public needs to understand, and that we don't understand fully, is because we're talking about now public education versus there are families that have homeschooled their child for years and have done virtual options. What I don't think that we understand yet, that doesn't mean you have a teacher every day, all hours of the day, speaking with you. If you choose to go that route now with just regular homeschooling, you may have a teacher at certain times. That's blended learning. You don't have a teacher every day. So I think that's what parents need to understand. Just because you were in public school, if you choose to stay online virtual, what you're basically doing is kind of like homeschooling.
That's what I wanted to make clear, right there.
Right, and that is important to understand. It's no longer sitting in a classroom with your teacher 7 hours a day. That changes dramatically.
But it's even different from what they experienced last April, May,
Right.
and June, because parents were used to being invited to a Zoom meeting by our teachers at certain times. That may not be the case with this new virtual learning full-time. That's right, isn't that correct?
Right, they will have contact time with teachers, but
But it
not
won't-
the same.
Not the same.
Not the same. And I think that's very critical that people understand that. So, like with K-12 learning, if a parent thinks, oh, I'll go with K-12 because they've been doing this for years, they're going to find they don't have a teacher all day long. They don't have someone talking to the child. And so that's why we need this time, and for the committees, and we're inviting parents in to explain to them, this is what it's going to look like. And I think once they do some of that research, we're hoping that they choose to stay with Isle of Wight. We're a very good school system, and we have a lot of dedicated people planning to provide a very good online curriculum and education for them if they choose.
So when we're talking reading, early reading, learning to read, which is critical, is this going to be our reading curriculum, or is it now the Virginia vertical learning curriculum?
It would still be our curriculum, but in the scenario that Dr. Kale described, what we now can do with the Virtual Virginia modules is hopefully what ends up happening is we actually can enhance our curriculum through embedding those modules, or as Dr. Thornton talked about, teachers may choose to use some things that are very effective. So I think what you're really talking about with the young children is more of a blending of our curriculum and our research-based best practices with the Virtual Virginia modules. Where at the high school levels, you're really talking about a high school Virtual Virginia course,
Right.
which is basically plug and play. I don't know if you wanted to add anything to that.
He's absolutely right. So it would be both. It would be both our curriculum with supplementation from the Virtual Virginia modules for each.
So our kids
individual
would
skill.
still get like the bookshelf with all the book choices?
Oh,
with-
absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
All right, another concern with the AB schedule is you're saying they will go to school, let's say we're Group A, where they go Monday, Wednesday. But on Tuesday, they're going to get virtual learning?
They're going to have very similar to what we're describing for full virtual. They'll have that blended learning.
And who's responsible for that?
The teachers will be developing those lessons.
All right, but the teacher is going to be teaching another group on the day that that group's at home.
Correct.
And so I can't wrap my head around how they're going to teach all day, but then provide instruction on the days that they,
And you'll hear probably more about that again. Once the subcommittees come through, you'll have a better understanding of what that looks like.
Well,
And
right,
what that looks like for a teacher as well.
yeah, it just seems to be, if I'm a teacher and I have 2 kids of my own, I'm going to be teaching other children's children all day, and then I have to go home and teach my kids? If they were home doing virtual learning,
These modules, probably the most help will be the youngest children. But the majority of these modules, a child will be able to go through them. And like I said, we'll be able to show samples further on in this month to help parents, to help you understand it as well. But we really want, by that first week in August, for our parents to really understand each option so they can make that good informed decision. And we'll have samples and what it looks like.
and the majority of our parents wants the 5-day, isn't that right?
Yes,
And
ma'am.
then we would be making plans to make an environment, a learning environment that's as safe as we most possibly can make it, where parents come in and they see and feel comfortable sending their child to school. And I know we're looking at our CDC and it's talking about 6-foot social distancing. And I'm looking at the World Health Organization and they are talking about 3 feet. And the European countries, I've been reading a lot, they are already implementing the 3 feet and they're not seeing an increase in the disease, in the virus. And so I'm just wondering, if even the 3 feet is an option.
That's also
Well-
the recommendation from AAP. That was also the recommendation from the American Academy of Pediatrics.
Is it?
Right, it's
Okay,
three-
that's
it's
good to
3
know.
In your
Okay.
So with that said, if we go back with the variance and say we have 1,300 students that choose all virtual, our class size is already going to be down from the traditional 24 that we have, because so many will be virtual. And so right there, we won't be able to do 6 feet. We've already looked at classrooms and set up classrooms in our various schools. And to do 6 feet, it's tough to get 12 or 13 desks spaced out. Some classrooms more and some classrooms less, but we are going to have to be less than 6 feet to accommodate that. But with some families choosing all virtual, that will help. And like I said, we're going to have to make that decision, and families are ultimately going to have to make that decision as well.
And it's also important to know that the spread of the disease is from spit when you're talking, and that landing on a surface that you've touched, and then you put your hands on your mouth, your eyes, your nose. That's how it makes it contagious. So the cleanliness aspect is something, but I think about the mask, and I know when I put on my mask, I touch my face more than ever. I mean, that's just a Jackie Carr thing, and because I'm constantly moving it, and that just doesn't seem to me a realistic thing for our children to be wearing masks and think they're not going to touch their face. It seems to be putting them more at risk. So it's just so much that's making my head spin in looking at all of this and trying to make some decisions that's best for our children and our school community. And then the other thing, talking about immunity, and trying to talk to, sending messages to the governor, trying to give us immunity.
Right. You guys may want to contact directly VSBA and see what their stand is, or if any other counties are contacting them about immunity as an option.
And then we need to talk to our attorney to see if a waiver, like parents, if you are going to send your child to school, they sign a waiver. And so if we find out, is that an option?
Right. And
For parents to say, I want to send my child to school, and I know no matter what, there's a risk when we walk out that door. We're putting ourselves at risk of something. When I get in my car to drive home, I'm putting myself at risk. So there's nowhere we can put our students and say they're not at risk. We just want to put where we put our students, we want to make sure that we're doing the best we can to make sure they're safe.
I do want to do a Zoom meeting with our attorney, with all of you present, to talk about possible litigation and different factors of moving forward prior to the end of July as well, so that you can ask him questions directly.
And I think we as educators, we're so used to looking at data to make informed decisions. And when we look at the data says it's okay to bring your kids back to school. Does anybody
What
else?
we gonna do after we get them here?
We're gonna do all we can to make sure when we get them here that we're following the safety that is recommended by everything coming down as much as we possibly can. It's not gonna be school like it was last January, and we have funds to help us make sure things are in place. The sanitation stations, the water fountains are going to be different. The way we eat lunch, it looks like it's going to be different. What are some other things that's going to be different?
So the safety, we have several safety committees, and the nurses are working together, but things that we've already looked at, we're ordering, I think is it 100 thermometers? Right, so as we
Taking temperatures
screen,
before they come in the building.
as we check temperatures before they come in the building, we want to get our students in the building learning and back to normal as fast as possible. So we've ordered 100 of these. So we may enter, say, Carsville Elementary through 3 different doors with multiple people spread out taking temperatures. We'll then have a location to send students who do have a temperature. And so all of those factors are, like I said, under different subcommittees. And that's just one example of what we're doing. We already have some plastic shields up in the offices. I went to Windsor Elementary School, and there's a plastic shield. So when the secretary comes to the counter to meet with a parent, you can slide something under the shield to protect our employee and to protect the parent coming in. So a lot of mitigation strategies like that. And that's why, as we get those in place, that's why we think it's so critical. Let's invite the community in and actually see them. Instead of, I don't want to talk about it and say, oh, we'll have hand sanitizer on the wall over here, we'll have touchless soaps. Let them come in and see them, let them put their hand under it, let them do it. I know Mr. Coleman talked to me, and we were talking about touchless hand sanitizers, and then he told me there's a product out now where you actually do touch it, but the lever that you touch it doesn't hold any, do you want to explain?
The actual level, the material that it's made out of cannot actually absorb any of the virus and things of that nature. And they have
Right.
documentation, everything that actually backs that up.
Right.
So those are the levels for all of some of the soap dispensers that we actually see.
So many things are going to be new that we put in place, and we are having to spend our CARES money to put those things in place. But we're going to have a lot of safeguards. We may be eating in the classrooms, depending on what that subcommittee comes up with for a period of time. And what do those meals look like? We're going to have to share with parents. They're probably not going to be hot meals in the classroom. They're going to be boxed meals and different things. So once, like I said, you're going to be inundated with so much information once we get our subcommittees done. That's why we may have to have several meetings to share that information with you. And so that parents understand, this is what where's my child's going to eat, this is what they're going to eat. This is how they're going to be able to go to the restroom. All of those things, I think, will play in and hopefully make our families comfortable that we are doing what's best to keep them safe in this time.
And are you thinking there may be times when, like, every child will have a mask, and there may be times it's time to put on your mask, and then it's okay to take your mask off? Is that kind of what?
Yeah, we've already talked about that. The state is not mandating a mask. We don't see that we are going to mandate a mask at any time. We're going to highly recommend a mask, like when Vicki shared about the buses. If we have more children on the bus than is recommended in the distancing, then we would highly recommend a mask. How that would look, who knows? Are you going to have a fourth grader reach over the seat and grab someone's mask from behind? Probably. They're kids. So all of those things are going to happen. These are going to be all new things that we're going to have to address. Are we going to take that kid and then throw him out of school? No. We have a discipline committee, and to look at that. We have committees that are looking into social emotional factors. There are so many things that are going to change when we come back to school. Like I said, how many subcommittees do we have, Mike?
We have 23 committees.
So,
I don't understand why we can't require
Dr.
masks.
Thornton? Dr. Thornton?
yes,
Hello?
yes. Julia asked a question, and then we'll take your question.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
I don't understand why we can't require masks.
Well, the state is telling us that all they say is highly recommended, and because certain children, it could be asthma, it could be other things like that. I'm telling you, I just don't know how, if I had to sit on an unair-conditioned bus with that mask on, I don't know if I could take it very long. I know as I go to the stores and wear my mask every once in a while, and I'm in very good shape and run all the time and ride bikes, I have to pull that mask down just to get a good breath. So, and smaller children, there's just so many factors and things that we're reading in different reports. So, and some of the response you saw there, if we require the mask, will you wear it? And the answer is no. And so we don't know if we want to fight that battle.
And face shields would not be an option.
And I know the committee is discussing that as well, and there's been some information from the state on that. I can't recall it at the time, but I don't think they're being recommended, are they, Mike?
No, I think the discussion was around they might be more comfortable for a teacher to wear a face shield in the event that they're wearing one. I saw some examples of that, but
Right.
yes, I don't remember a recommendation on that.
I was reading up on that too, and it's like the face shields, because I feel like I personally, I can see your facial expressions, and that's such an important thing, especially teaching young kids. But the face mask, the shield, it said it protects you. the mask protects others. I mean, that's what I read. I don't know if it's true or not, but that's just one of many things that I've been reading about.
But you know how many times it's changed about the mask? So-
I'm just saying with the mask, how I am with the shield. I haven't worn one, I haven't tried it, but I feel like I could breathe better with that. And so I'm like, well, why couldn't we do that? But that's just what the article said that I read.
And Julia, we might come with a recommendation. The subcommittee may come, and the nurses may come, and the local health department may come with a recommendation. If you're going to put more kids on that bus, then you should require a mask. And if we get to that point, then we may say, to ride that bus, you need to wear a mask. And because I think a lot of the public doesn't understand either, even though we've always had buses in state code, we do not have to supply a bus to bring children to school. The only children we have to provide a ride to are special ed children.
Yeah.
I don't think the public understands that. We could say, oh, well, we're not transporting you anymore. I don't think we're ready to do that, because our goal is to get children here and educate them.
No, if
So-
we want to continue having the positions that we hold. we
Right.
wanna go.
Yes, ma'am. But I think down the road, we could look at, we could be at the point of saying, yes, we can't space appropriately on a bus, you have to wear a mask. That may be something we recommend.
I remember, excuse me, I remember several years ago, those that have been around a minute might remember when they tried to put seatbelts on buses.
Exactly.
Tried to put what on buses?
Seatbelts.
Oh, yeah.
They had a tough time with seatbelts going on buses because the students were taking the seatbelts off. It was in Northern Virginia. You probably remember this. 2 years back. They were taking the seatbelts off and throwing them. They were hitting cars, windshields, and some injuries. And so they finally said, well, we can't lock this kid up in that seatbelt. But they get him out and throw him out. And the same thing, getting the children to school, we got to realize that your handicap, as Dr. Thornton said, your handicap buses are equipped different. And some things you are going, if you're going to furnish it, you're going to have to do it their way. Their way. I don't think they're going to take a school bus and break it down to 6 feet. To 3 feet. I don't know, but I don't think so. With my familiarity with buses and their minimum standards.
Ms. Carr, I think
Ms. Tynes.
had a question.
Ms. Tynes,
Yes,
go
I'm still
ahead.
here.
Yeah, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, the question I had was for Dr. Thornton when he was talking about, some of the things they were going to be putting in place, hopefully, especially with the transportation of students on the bus. And he also mentioned the CARES Act. And my question, to him, it's not a question, I guess. It was, I have been thinking about it anyway, about maybe we have instructional assistants, okay? And we all know that have been in education long enough why they were put there. We have reached that point now because of the COVID-19 that we need health assistance as well, especially on the school buses for the elementary age students, because like some of the points Dr. Thornton brought out, kids are going to be kids and they're going to do certain things. They're going to forget. Although you teach them certain things not to do going forward for health and safety reasons, they're going to forget and they're going to be playing around. So maybe we need to think about utilizing some of our CARES funding and bringing on staff to assist in those areas. It's just a thought, okay?
We will bring that forward to that subcommittee as a thought.
Thank you, Ms. Tynes.
Okay.
Okay, I guess the next thing we need to do is set a date for our next meeting.
So, Madam Chair, based on the subcommittees and our review of that, we do have a meeting regular school board meeting July 9th. I would recommend that we have a meeting the week of July 20th. and that meeting utilized to give you more information on all the subcommittee reports. And then I would recommend we meet July 30th and make a decision of how we're going to open. And maybe that same week, on July 30th, or maybe part of that meeting, maybe we walk one of the facilities, because all the facilities will be similar, so that you can actually see the mitigation strategies for yourself as well.
Okay.
So your recommendations will be, are they Thursday meetings, like the 23rd is a Thursday of July, and the 30th is a Thursday as well, Dr. Thornton?
Right, if Thursdays work, then I would recommend the 23rd and the 30th, if you're able to do those.
Can I
Yeah,
request daytime?
I don't have a problem.
That's better
Morning.
for us, too.
Can we do can I request a morning meeting?
For which one? The,
Both of them? Not obviously the school board meeting, but
Right.
the other meetings.
Julia, do you have a preference of morning or evenings? Ms. Hewlett asked for mornings for our special call meetings.
No, either way.
Mr. Wilson, do you have a special preference, morning or evenings for the special called meetings? How about you, Ms. Tynes?
What's that?
On the 23rd and the 30th for our special called meetings, do you have a preference of morning or evening? Ms. Hewlett requested the mornings.
It doesn't matter.
Okay. And yours
as
is
long as
work
it's not
issues, I'm
too early.
sure. Yeah.
As long as it's not a 7 o'clock meeting in the morning.
No,
No, we're talking like 9, 10.
yeah, like this, 9.
Like this. 9 to
Okay,
10.
so we want to have our next meeting, well, of course, the July 9th is our regular meeting.
Right.
That's the evening meeting. But the 23rd and the 30th, do we want to do as we did today, 9 o'clock?
I'm fine with that.
Would that work for you, Mr. Wilson? Ms. Perkins?
Okay.
And Ms. Tynes, 9 o'clock on the 23rd and 30th, would that work for you?
Yes,
Okay, and then we would have subcommittee reports coming to us.
Yes, prior to that.
Basically, the 23rd. Are we
You'll-
going to have
you'll-
any?
You'll have them prior to the 23rd.
Okay,
So you have time to read them, and similar to like when we do policies review, if you're to review those when we give them to you, because different subcommittees will probably we'll review them and we may have to send them back. So as soon as we get them, we'll send them, and then if you send us questions, I think that same format as we use with policies would be good.
so the 23rd, we come prepared to discuss.
Yes, yes. And we may have more information on the 23rd for you. And I just want to be clear too, July 9th is still in this room, and I would like to hold the meeting in this room on the 23rd and 30th, knowing that August, we go back to the courthouse.
on the 30th, we're going to be back at the courthouse.
No, ma'am. In August, we'll be back at the courthouse. So the July
August,
meetings
in
will all be at
August,
West Side.
August, we're for our regular meeting.
Yes, ma'am.
That's correct.
Repeat that again, Dr. Thornton, repeat that again, okay?
Okay, so the July 9th, July 23rd, and July 30th meeting will be at West Side Elementary Cafeteria. And our
Okay.
August 13th meeting will be back at the courthouse.
Okay, thank you. At regular time, 5 o'clock, gotcha.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. We done with all of our business?
Yes, ma'am.
Everybody done? All right, meeting is adjourned.
Jackie,
Yes.